Get the Associated truck, they told me. It's a great crawler, they said. I just don't get it. It's the last time I take advice from the internet. Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're taking a look at this Element RC Enduro Jeep Wrangler Unlimited kit. That's a lot of stuff. It's a big name, it's a kit, and it's got a Jeep body. Anyway, if you were following along on Instagram and on Facebook, you'll know that I decided to build a kit while I was on vacation. I'd hoped to finish the kit while I was there and get some running footage, but I ran into some things that I really wanted to take care of first, and that's what this video is going to be about. Specifically, I want to be able to reposition the front and rear bumpers to bring them in a little bit closer to the body, and I want to be able to get the body to fit. Those are the issues that we're going to tackle in today's video. First of all, if we take a look at this front bumper, we can see that it sticks out way too far past the front of the body. And this bumper is installed as far back as it can go with the stock bumper mount. So that's something we're going to need to address. On the rear, it's not too bad, but I still think there's room to tuck that bumper in just a little bit more to help our departure angle. Another issue that I'm facing is that the receiver box that's mounted right here is out too far to be able to allow the body to fit where it needs to. The body is too narrow for it to fit centered with that receiver box. We're going to need to remove that receiver box. And lastly, because the middle of this body is kind of narrow, not only is it hitting that receiver box, but these rock sliders stick out too far, even with them pulled in all the way. So we need to make some modifications to those. Before we discuss how we're going to make those changes, first I just want to give you a little bit of information about what this vehicle is and what parts I used. This isn't a review, nor is it going to be a step-by-step kit build. There's plenty of information out there for both of those. But I do want to just tell you about the decisions I made for the parts I used. This was a completely stock build except for just a couple of upgrade parts that I decided to use. The first of those upgrade parts were the shock towers. Team Associated sells an upgraded shock tower. It's exactly the same as what comes with the truck except that it's made out of a more rigid material. You can tell them apart because the upgraded parts are in a gray plastic instead of black. I decided to go with that upgraded part because the front shock coupe also incorporates the panhard bar mount, and that can see a lot of stress during different types of movement and steering. By going with the more rigid plastic, it should help preserve that front suspension geometry. The other upgrade part that I decided to go with were brass knuckles for the front axle. Those were from Beef Tubes. I decided to go with the weighted knuckles up front because I really wanted to see how good I can make this truck climb. This truck comes with the overdrive transmission, and I decided to go with the larger overdrive. It's about a 12% overdrive. That, combined with a little bit of weight up front, should really help this thing climb like crazy. Can't wait to get it on the trails and see. For electronics in this truck, I decided to go with some stuff I haven't used before. For the speed control, I wanted to try out the Hobbywing 1080. This has a great reputation, and I've been dying to try it out. I figured this was the truck to do it. I paired that up with the new Holmes Hobbies Crawlmaster Sport motor. Because the Enduro Ready to Runs come with a 5-pole motor instead of the more standard 3-pole, I wanted to try to keep that same thing and try out this new motor from Holmes. For the servo, I went with the same cheap 20 kilogram servo that I've used in some previous projects. They don't cost anything, and so far they've been good and reliable. For bumpers, I went with a couple of cheap bumpers that I bought off of eBay. I like how they look. The front bumper in particular, I like that it's narrow, and the price was right. The one drawback to these bumpers is that I'm a little bit limited in how I can mount them. That's why we need to address that. So now you can see the bumpers apart, everything's hanging, and we've removed the posts from the back of the bumper that go into the factory mount. Now we can just slide this mount off. In order to push that bumper back, what I've decided to do is 3D print a part. This is the 3D part that I've designed and printed. You can see it's a pretty straightforward design. It's basically just a block that's notched on the sides in order to fit into the rails.
On the side, it has the holes necessary to mount it to the chassis rails. And on the top, what I decided to do was to put more screw holes that we could use to mount the bumper to it directly. It's a very straightforward design, and it's going to help us move that bumper back quite a bit. So instead of being out here like the bumper used to be, now we're going to be way back here. So let's get this mounted. So now we have the bumper fully installed, and you can see that it's moved a lot farther back. This is going to fit much better with the body. So now we can move on to the back bumper. The fitment on the back bumper isn't really too bad, but in order to help with my departure angle, I do want to tuck it in a little bit more, and I wouldn't mind if it came up a little bit higher. To do that with the existing bumper mount, we could turn over this bumper mount, but I think that'll move it up too high. Plus, we would have to trim it and drill new holes. But since we just pulled the front bumper mount off, we can use that back here. And if I sit it here, you can see that'll allow me to tuck the bumper in a little bit more, and it's also going to raise it up. So now we're just going to swap this mount with the front one and see how it works. So now we have the bumper mount from the front installed in the rear, and now you can see that the surface of this bumper is even with the top of the frame, which brought it up quite a bit from where it was with the old mount. Additionally, because this mount only sticks out a little bit here, it allowed us to move that bumper in further compared to where it was with the other mount as well. Overall, it's a win-win. So now you can see that we've got the receiver box removed. I've got the receiver temporarily mounted here. I'll come up with a more permanent mount and clean up the wiring later. But now we can see that we've got a lot more space here. So if we set the body on, now it's well centered instead of being offset like it was. So now that this body is on and it's centered fairly well, we can see our next problem, and that's all this space we have. There's a big gap between the rock slider and the body. This rock slider can pull in a whole bunch, but it can't, because if you look right here, it's already installed as far in as it can go. So what we're going to have to do here is use the Dremel and trim this back a little bit. Then we can slide the rock slider in further, just drill some new mounting holes, and we'll be good to go. And what we may even be able to do now is better follow the taper of this body. This body's got a little bit of a taper toward the front, and so now what we can do is mark it, cut this at an angle, and slide that front rock slider in so that it better follows the contour. So let's get that done, and then we'll take a look. So now we've got this pan cut, and we've got our rock sliders reinstalled. I'm at a different camera angle now because I realized from my other footage that it was tough to see from that angle. But now you can see that we've got this section trimmed back, and we've got it trimmed at an angle so that it tapers forward just like the body. You can see because we've got a little bit of a gap between this screw hole and the edge, where up here the edge is really right at that screw hole. All we had to do was take the Dremel, trim this back the way we wanted, and then the posts on the rock sliders that slide into this part here just needed to be trimmed, so that we were able to push the rock sliders in all the way and then drill new holes for the screws that mount from underneath. Now we have rock sliders that are tucked in nice and tight, and they fit the taper on the body. So you can see this is the before picture. Got our space, got our big body sitting here. Now let's take a look at the after. No truck. Ooh, new shirt. Let's try this again. New crawler. And new shirt. Excellent. So now you can see that we've got it all done. The body's fitted, we've got the bumpers fitted and tucked, and we've even got our magnet mount system holding this thing rock solid. We've also got our sliders tucked in. So this thing's ready to go. And as you might be able to see, this thing's already pretty scuffed up because I cheated and used it already. I had an opportunity to take this with me on Thanksgiving down to Connecticut. I went to RC Madness. They have an incredible indoor crawler course, and I had a lot of fun using this, the Gen 8, and the Barrage. My son and my father-in-law came with me. The three of us played on the rocks. We had a blast. One thing that really shocked me is just how good this truck is. I'm sure most of the credit goes to these Hyrax tires, but the overdrive that this truck has, combined with the weight that I put up front in those brass knuckles, just made this thing an incredible climber. This thing would climb lines that I just couldn't believe. We had so much fun that the next day we actually took it outside to a local spot that I know of,
and we had a blast all over again. And we were all just consistently amazed at how good this truck is. But anyway, as I mentioned, we've got the body fitted. I went with another magnet mount system. I like the magnets on the Gen 8 so much that I wanted to do the same thing here. But unlike the Gen 8, this truck comes with normal body posts. So I'm going to show you how we did this with magnets that come with a hole that are designed to be screw mounted. And it really worked out extremely well. You can just see how strong these magnets really are. They really hold great, and you don't end up with a body post sticking through. This vehicle uses the more standard body posts. So in this case, what I decided to do was go with a magnet that had a hole in the middle, and that allowed me to mount one magnet right to the body posts, and then the other magnet can mount to the body and actually use the body post for centering. Right now I have a rubber washer on it, but if I take it off, you can see where we're at here. I removed the body post from the vehicle, and then I was able to slide the magnet up from underneath and just do a little bit of trimming on this section of the body post here so that it fit well into the recess of the magnet. Then a little bit of shoe glue and it was all set to go. I ended up putting these rubber washers on just because these magnets are so strong that I actually found it difficult to get the body off. Now, in order to get the magnets onto the rear body post, it was a little bit more complicated. Unlike the front, where it's a post that's just mounted right into the shock tower, the rear is a more complicated assembly, so I don't have the option of sliding the magnet up from the bottom. So for this application, what I had to do was actually cut the magnet, and I did a pie cut. That way I could slide the magnet over the post and then glue it. Because of the recess in the magnet, everything's still centered well, and once it was glued in place, it worked beautifully. If we take a look at the body itself, you can see that the magnets are just shoe glued into place. We've got this bumper tucked in super tight up front. You can see that we've got all kinds of front approach angle. Rear bumpers tucked tight and up high, so again, your departure angle is really good. Well guys, that's it for now. I really enjoyed putting this truck together. It was a lot of fun to build the kit. It was fun to get this body fitted just how I wanted, and it was even more fun to use the truck. I really want to be able to show off this truck a little bit. But we got hit with 30 inches of snow the first week of December, so at least until I can head south, my opportunities for crawling are pretty much over for now. But because of that, I'm going to get caught up on some of my previous footage that I've already shot, and I'm hoping to get back to some projects that have been sitting there languishing. So if you're waiting to see some of my other projects get updated, make sure you stick around, click the subscribe button, hit the notification, all that good stuff. Keep looking for my videos. I'm going to have more soon. Thanks, guys.